Good morning. We invite you to rise in body or spirit. Let's join and sing our gathering song as we're coming together. We are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandmother's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of time. We are mothers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of children and brothers of time. We are brothers of dust and the children of ages. We're seekers of truth and keepers of time. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandmother's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Good morning. Welcome to the Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, and I am really glad to be with you this morning. My pronouns are she and her, and we're so glad to have you with us, whether you're visiting here for the first time, and we have quite a few first-time visitors this morning, which is wonderful. And that, I've learned from our conversations, that probably includes online, so welcome to those who are joining us online as well. We are glad that you are here and spending part of this beautiful day with us. If you are visiting with us, we ask that you complete a visitor's card if you haven't done so, either here, a physical card, or online at some point. We're glad to have you do that. And if you are ready, have been visiting with us for a while and are ready to make the commitment of membership, we will do that on the first Sunday of May. So please feel free to ask any questions you have of anybody who is around you, as I'm sure they will be glad to answer those questions. We have a lot going on today and in general, so I wanted to make a couple quick announcements. We have one special event that will be announced slightly later in our service that will be happening today. I did want to mention that we have a few slots still available in our Ant and Butterfly Earth Day event that's happening after the service today. So if you're interested in participating, please see Reverend Rodney or Kate Lenhart, who I think is here somewhere, and you talk to them after the service. And then our musical tribute to Marge Chapel and Deb Baltzo will be happening at 2. It's listed as happening in the Borton Hall. It will actually be happening here in the sanctuary, and we hope that you will be here to be part of that as well. Next Saturday, we are having a streamlined version of something we do every couple years, which is planning for the end of life seminar, and that will be here from 10 to 1, and you can sign up for that and register online. So we hope that you'll consider doing that just to put things in order, which is always helpful. We are so grateful that you are here, and welcome to this beloved community.
Good morning. I'm Jana Contreras, a member of your Board of Trustees. My pronouns are she and hers. Welcome to our service. Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church is a welcoming faith community. We begin our services by reading our mission together. We bring to life our Unitarian Universalist values as we seek truth and work for justice, nurture compassion and courage, reach out to each other and to our larger community of faith, bridge the divisions that wound the human family, transform ourselves and our world. This community exists because of the time, talent, and treasure that our members and friends share. Please check the Just in Time section of our weekly email and our newsletter, and the Just in Time board in the Borton Hall to connect and contribute. While we are no longer checking vaccination statuses, our expectation is that those who are inside are vaccinated and fully boosted and are symptom-free or have a negative COVID test. After having done ventilation testing of our buildings, we have made masking optional, though recommended. We will continue to honor one another's choices in covenant. A few announcements. We need your pledge today. As of last week, we were only halfway to our goal. We know that our congregation values our democratic process, and yet the board will not be able to present a budget without your pledges. Please help us as your hard-working board, that's me, and do not delay. Our annual meeting will be the first Sunday in June in place of service, so there's no excuse. You can come. And we need, please, to have the large quorum so we can vote to have a less large quorum. I'm going to be on vacation in Mexico City, but will I be there? Yes, virtually. 2 people, me and my husband. So please, mark it on your calendars. Say must attend, must attend, must attend. Please attend. Because otherwise we have to do it again. We don't want to do that. And welcome. It's good to be together.
We do have a wonderful board, so let's help them with the budget process. In the spirit of gathering on this Earth Day weekend, I would invite you to greet your neighbors and say, welcome, it's good to see you on this beautiful day.
We invite you to remain risen and join in singing our invocation, Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good morning. My name is Rose Barretto. My pronouns are she and her. Apologies for being late. We light this chalice, spark of the original fire of creation, to remind us that we all on this planet, the furred, the feathered, the finned, and the scaled, along with us featherless bipeds, we are all made of the same star stuff and all share a common identity. From All Animal Chalice by Mark Causey, former president of UU Ministry of Earth.
Hello, good morning. My name is Andrea Quigley, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I've been asked to speak a little bit about what the church means to me and what it's done for me. I came here after looking for a church by accident. I I had gotten into an argument with my boyfriend at the time, and I walked off just to get some space, and there was a big church right there, and I had this feeling, oh, well, maybe it's meant to be. And I walked in, and the environment seemed sort of inviting. I mean, they had a really nice stocked bathroom with amenities and nice couches with pillows to sit on. But I later realized that I wasn't going to fit in there. And one of the main reasons was not only because it was a Pentecostal place where people spoke in tongues and talked about, Jesus a lot, which wasn't meshing for me at the time. I was watching their singers, and they had a very large, like a praise and worship band, and that's something I actually would have stuck around for. But they were very, very non-inclusive, and that was really disappointing. So I decided to just look up a UU church in the area, and it happened to be this one. I was a member of a UU church down in Vero Beach, Florida for a while, where it was very inclusive, and I was able to join their choir. And the first day that I came here was for a Sunday service, and I heard Brett play the piano, and I realized I was going to keep coming back here even if it was just for that. Really, I'm serious. I'm not even saying it. It's true. But not only that, I was invited to a Harmony Singers meeting right after the service, and Davina Smith, I don't know if she's here. Is she here? No. Davina Smith, who's a member of our board, she offered to share her music with me. It was I could feel the inclusivity in the air. The other things that attracted me was what I kind of envisioned as a Christless communion. And the reason I say that is because I come from a very Roman Catholic background, except my parents were a little bit different. My parents didn't take us to church or to Sunday school like my cousins and everyone would either go to a Catholic school or to something they called CCD, which was like a Catholic Sunday school where you learn about the sacraments. So even though we were baptized into the Catholic Church as infants, we never went on to do, a lot of Catholic families would have a big party for the First Communion. And I remember not having a First Communion party, and at Easter when all my cousins and aunts and uncle, everybody, my parents would get up and go for communion, but we had to sit, me and my sister and brother had to sit in the pews. We weren't allowed to go up for communion because we hadn't had that blessing. But you're allowed to do that here, and that means so much to me. During the pandemic, one of my very best friends was killed in the middle of a psychiatric intervention. He was shot by the police, and I was able to come here and get support from various people on campus, including some of the people who work here and used to work here. Tristan was one of those people. But I also got so much support online and met people online that I never would have met and gotten close to otherwise through community circles and the grief group that is usually run by Reverend Leslie, but sometimes others, has given me so much support. I don't know how I would have gotten through some of the things I've had to go through otherwise. And with the Vespers, joys and sorrows, everything that's been offered to me here, financial help during the pandemic, financial help for my cat when he needed a surgery. I couldn't be more grateful to the community that I found here, and I've been in California for 10 years now, and a lot of you know I'm getting ready to move back to the East Coast at the end of July to be with my family. A big part of the reason I'm moving is because I found myself here in California, and now over the years my relationship with my father has been healed a lot, and I'm finally ready to know where I want to stick my roots down in the world. And so much of that is thanks to MDUUC and all of you people. Thank you so much.
Now I would like to invite those who are young or young at heart down to the front for the Time for All Ages. While you're coming up, I just want to say a special welcome to our guests and our families who are visiting with us this morning. It is great to have you here. Well, good morning. Good morning. It's so good to see you all. Hello. This morning, I'm thinking about Earth Day, and I know that some of our congregants here watched a movie called The Ant and the Grasshopper. And it's tied to Aesop's fable, story about doing today instead of putting off for tomorrow. And so I've adapted it a little bit. I'm going to tell you a story, if that's okay. Once upon a time, there was an ant and a grasshopper who lived in a world where the environment was in danger due to climate change. The ant was a responsible and diligent worker who spent their summers gathering food and storing it away for the winter. Food. The grasshopper, on the other hand, was carefree and enjoyed doing whatever his heart desired, never giving a thought to the future. One summer, a severe heat wave, really hot, hit the land, and the grasshopper found it difficult to find food and water. He was so hungry and thirsty. He went to the ant, hoping that they would share their supplies with him. The ant, though frustrated with the grasshopper's unwillingness to work towards a better future, shared what they had and reminded the grasshopper that it is the responsibility of each of us to act today to prepare for tomorrow. The grasshopper was grateful for the ant's offerings, and he soon realized that he had not done his part to protect the environment and shift the effects of climate change. He saw how his actions and those of others like him were not lending themselves to building a better tomorrow, and he knew that something had to be done. He started to educate himself about climate change and its impact on the environment. He began to advocate for new rules, new ways of being that protected the planet and ensured that everyone had equal access to resources and opportunities, regardless of who they are or where they live. The grasshopper's efforts inspired others to join him in the fight for climate justice. Yeah, boo on climate change. They organized protests, they talked to their government, and worked to raise awareness about the importance of acting on climate change. As a result, the government and all the businesses started to take steps towards protecting the earth and worked hard together. The grasshopper and his fellow activists felt a sense of accomplishment, but they knew that their work was far from over, though it is exhausting like that, yes. They continue to fight for climate justice, advocating for rules. They work to educate others about the importance of taking responsibility for their actions and doing their part to protect the planet. In the end, the grasshopper and his fellow activists helped to create a world that was more just, equitable, and sustainable for all. They knew that there was still much work to be done, but they were proud of their accomplishments
and the impact they had made. They continued to fight for climate justice, knowing that their efforts would make a difference for generations to come. And now it is my hope that we, as friends, can be like the ant and the grasshopper and do our part to help fight climate change. Now I'd like to invite you all to join me in singing the youth off to their programs.
As you leave this friendly place, love give light to every face. May the kindness that you learn light your hearts till you return.
Once a month, we take a collection to benefit a cause that shares our values. And for this month's Share the Plate, Les Polgar will share our announcement.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Polgar, and my pronouns are he and him. Today's Share the Plate is for the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, UUSC in our alphabet jargon. Many of us know UUSC for the guest at your table cardboard coin boxes at holiday time. How many of you have participated in that? Good. But there's much more. In February 1939, Unitarian minister the Reverend Waitstill Sharp and his wife Martha set sail from the United States to help refugees escape Nazi persecution. There's a good documentary, Defying the Nazis, The Sharps' War. IMDb, International Movie Database, gives it a 7.1, which is above my threshold for watching. Tom Hanks is the narrator. There is a disclosure I have to make. Sue and I are micro-producers of the original film and members of the UUSC Stewardship Council. Inspired by the Sharps' courageous mission, the Unitarian Services Committee, the precursor to UUSC, was established in 1940 to continue and formalize humanitarian service. UUSC advances human rights and social justice around the world, partnering with those who confront unjust power and mobilizing to challenge oppressive policies. Their work is grounded in the belief that all people have inherent power and dignity. UUSC carries this out by working with an international community of grassroots local partners and advocates. The three strategic priorities of UUSC are international justice and accountability, climate and disaster justice, and finally, migration justice. UUSC has earned the highest possible rating from Charity Navigator, which is America's largest independent evaluator of nonprofit organizations. I urge you to visit the UUSC website, uusc.org. What else? Each of us must choose our priorities in our philanthropy. Long time ago, Sue and I established 3 tiers for charitable giving. Think of it as a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, there are just 3 organizations in this highest priority group. First of all, this congregation, MDUUC, which has been there ever since we started this 28 years ago. The second is Hope Solutions. The program notes that I'm supposed to speak for Hope Solutions, but I'm not. It's UUSC, but that's the second, which aids the unhoused in our community. And finally, UUSC. So I ask you to be generous today and mark your offering for Share the Plate. Many thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I am Patricia Craven. My pronouns are she and her. It is with great joy and gratitude to be here with you today as a worship associate. It feels so timely because it was 9 years ago this spring that I came to this sanctuary and joined you in celebration and connection. My story is that I had spent almost 50 years making sure I did not join any religious group. Being in an organized group meant only a place of control, judgment, and even coercion to think, feel, and act in a certain way. Though I avoided joining an organized group, I did have a very strong spiritual sense of this world. At the age of 7, I remember sitting in the well of my father's 1963 green VW Bug and talking to the stars, sharing my dreams, and even asking questions. In 5th grade, and during a challenging period of my life, I spent hours running in the woods, wading in the streams, and sitting above the ground in the branches of a fallen birch tree. I thoroughly felt the power, support, and pure magic of nature. This made the struggles within my home bearable, and I knew deep within myself that there was a sense of oneness around me. At 13, spirituality got transferred to religion. My 26-year-old brother, deep in his fundamentalist beliefs, felt that I needed to be converted to the faith. I loved him deeply and felt very connected. I was also seeking comfort from leaving my father's home. So I went along. I spent every Sunday afternoon learning the Bible stories of the Old Testament, the promises God gave to his people. Then we started the teachings of Christ, or the New Testament. Some would say the teachings of Christ. But what I remember was not the love, compassion, joy, and light of that faith, only the criticisms, rules, and restrictions. The Sunday afternoon that I completed the course in my conversion, my sister-in-law turned to me and said, "Okay, are you going to go up tonight and confess and be baptized?" I looked at her kind of confused. She continued, "Because now that you know all of this, if you die in a car accident on the way to church, you will go to hell." Well, you bet I walked up that night and I went home soaking wet from being dumped in the water. This was my introduction to organized religion. My membership didn't last very long. However, it had a great impact on me. Once leaving the church, I consciously fought against any regular participation in any formal expression of religious or spiritual beliefs. Though I was very connected to nature as a source of spirit, I did not participate in the formal Wiccan practices of so many of my friends. While insight meditation was booming in Marin County, I sat in my log cabin reading Cornfield and Goldberg's book, teaching myself to meditate. So it wasn't just Christianity that I fought against, but any formal gathering. This all changed when I came to MDUC. After the death of my 3 siblings and then my friend, I showed up at the Friday morning grief group, thinking this would be the full extent of my connection to the church. What I found was warmth and a place of acceptance that shocked me. The people were kind and full of curiosity. Leslie encouraged me to meet with her, and in that meeting she asked me. She asked about me. She did not make any assumptions about who I was or what I needed. She then suggested how I might use various aspects of the church to direct the spirituality that I had inside. Coming to MDUC, an organized religious group, does not reenact my earlier childhood experiences, but it is one that nourishes the deep spiritual knowing from my childhood, oneness and wholeness. It provides a community for me to be in connection and break the isolation and loneliness that I often felt while practicing spirituality in solitude. I would like to share some words by Meg Barnhouse, UUA minister. We gather to worship, our hearts alive with hope that here we will be truly seen, that here we will be welcomed into the garden of this community. May we all come together today and worship on this spring day.
We invite you to rise and bow to your spirit. Let's join in singing our opening hymn, For the Earth Forever Turning. For the earth forever turning, for this God's will gladly see. For our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
Come to the part in our service where we uplift the joys found in this community and collectively hold the sorrows that are too much for any of us to bear alone. This morning, Elizabeth Copley is lighting a candle, one to celebrate her 73rd trip around the sun on Earth Day. The second, announcing, she says, my grandchildren are pulling me back to Massachusetts like sirens. I am leaving with mixed emotions, but am confident that this is the right decision. Love you all. Tom Taylor is lighting a candle of joy and wishing a happy birthday to our great work staff, Eric. David Stanley is lighting a candle this morning. 60 years ago this month, our congregation voted unanimously to acquire the property at the recommendation of Bill Steenberg, who died in January. Tom Adams is asking us to light a candle of concern for his mother, Amy Adams, who turned 100 last summer. She took a bad fall 2 weeks ago in her home in North Carolina, and she has been recovering in the hospital. She's expected to move to a rehab facility in the next few days. Errol Reyes is asking us to light a candle of sorrow this morning. Errol's uncle, his dad's eldest brother, Amado Salazar Reyes, who lived in Vancouver, just died on April 11th after a long and full life. He passed away peacefully at the age of 91, surrounded by friends and family. Errol says that we are glad to have seen him when we visited in February. And this morning we are lighting a candle of joy for a very special guest who is with us this morning to celebrate Isabel Johnson's 101st birthday. Yeah, I got a note. It is so good to see you this morning, Isabel. We will be honoring Isabel with cake on the patio after service. Please join us in this celebration. And I'm asking Reverend Leslie to light 2 final candles, the first representing all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in our hearts. A second, a gentle reminder that we are the keepers of love and justice makers in this one imperfect but important world.
We invite you to join in singing our meditation song, Faith as a Forest. We'll remain seated as we sing. Faith is a forest in which doubts play and hide. Insight can hear the still small voice deep inside. Web of life, may this thread I weave, the strength and commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do or say. Seeds of both meek and strong are scattered in air. Dignity sins undimmed by bigotry's glare.
Web of life, may this thread I weave. Help me bear witness to all I believe. Justice be my guide
as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Fortune and famine ride the swift winds of chance. Sorrow and pleasure seem united in dance. Web of life, may this thread I weave. Mingle compassion with all I believe. Mercy be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day.
Speak through me
In all I do and say.
I invite you to join me in the spirit of meditation and reflection and that deep ask that is known as prayer. And today, as we gather, let us embody that deep ask, that deep search, that deep seek by taking a moment to ground ourselves more firmly on the earth. I invite you to take a moment and just put your feet down on the ground. If they are not there, or if they are there, just to take a moment and be aware that they are there. If that is not the best way for you to be aware, then you might want to reach down and touch the ground, whatever works best for you. For as we center ourselves this morning, we do so with the sentiment of Wendell Berry, who said, "The earth is what we all have in common." With that centering, that knowing, that grounding, we make this ask. May I feel my interconnection with other beings today, with other members of the human family, those who are here with me, those that are closest in my heart. If I am watching across the miles, those who are around me in my neighborhood, other generations. With those who come before me, may I celebrate their gifts and forgive their mistakes. For those who come after me, may I use this connection, this grounding, to remind me to do all that I can so that those who come after me will celebrate my gifts and forgive my mistakes. May I feel in this connection my interconnection today with all the creatures who share this planet with us, all the choices that we have that affect not only ourselves, but them as well. And let me take just a moment here as I feel myself deeply into this connection to try to consider the earth itself, which we know now, without refute, has been harmed by our lack of attention and by our customs and traditions, which invite us to think of it only as something to be used for our wants. In the silence that follows, let us take a moment to comprehend the beauty and majesty of this beautiful planet. May this moment of connection inspire us to make the choices large and small that will make a difference. Amen.
Maybe we're just one of a million tiny galaxies hurtling on towards some unrevealed destiny. Maybe we're somebody's unfinished symphony. Maybe we're defenders of the indefensible, just trying to make some sense of the incomprehensible. What if we are? What if we are stars? Maybe we're the victims of reincarnation. Maybe we're the phantoms of manifestation. Maybe we're just here to fix our mistakes again. And maybe we're planets like Venus and Saturn, surrounded by gases and protons and atoms. And what if we are? What if we are only stars? Maybe this world is just thinner than it seems. Maybe we're all partners in the same lucid dream, yeah. Maybe we're vapors, or maybe we're just steam. Maybe we're creatures of habit and malice, the pale in the light of aurora borealis. And what if we are? What if we are only these stars? Only stars in the dark,
In the dark,
just a spark. Maybe we're just lucky and blessed to bear witness to the flashing of this meteor, the tail of this comet. And maybe we're cursed, and maybe we're fortunate. Maybe we just go on our white Milky Way. Maybe we get to stay. And what if we are? What if we are stars? Only stars. Only only stars. Only stars.
Good morning. My name is Steve Deach. I'm a member of your Board of Trustees. My pronouns are he and him. And as I was thinking about today, and I was thinking about how can I make asking for money something interesting and creative? Not an easy task. And so I started perusing websites and trying to find something interesting. And I came across this quote, and it said, "It is said, the Lord gives a cheerful giver, loves a cheerful giver, yet will accept from a grouch as well." I thought, now that's different. So my challenge to each of us today as we bring in these beautiful days of spring are threefold. One is, let's see if as we reach into our pocketbooks today to give, that we can do it with a smile. The second is, let's try to remember the wonderful connections and friendships and mission of MDUUC and what it means to each of us. And three, think about the things that each of us receive from MDUUC throughout the weeks and years that each of us have been here. Lastly, not part of my first three, you might be surprised to know that we need your pledge cards. Okay? We're trying to prepare the budget, and as Jana mentioned earlier, we really need the pledge cards because it's a major component of what we're trying to do. So please give, and please give your pledge cards. The ushers will now please come forward. Let us dedicate the offering for today together. To the work of this community in transforming ourselves and our world, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings.
They say that timing is everything. I remember how excited I was to hear just a couple years ago about the growing number of religious groups that included a wide spectrum of beliefs that had suddenly decided that they needed to be part of addressing climate change. This was an abrupt shift for some of them, and I remember it was a very exciting time. And then, around that same time, I overcame my own fear of all the data and the information, all that I was hearing, all that I was afraid I wouldn't understand, and I began to delve back in myself into this idea of understanding what we can do to affect this big world that we live in, and how important it is for us to be asking that our leaders listen at this time. One of the things I learned was that it's not that we don't have the science to do it, it's that we don't have the commitment to make these changes. We've had the science for a pretty long time. Great, I thought. Helping people believe in things and that they can do things and make commitments is something that faith communities are really good at. And there's more faith communities that want to get involved in this, so this should work out really well. And right about this time was when the decline of the familiar forms of organized faith in our nation became more and more apparent. Sigh. Timing really is everything. However, we also know that commitment can move mountains. So, on the day before Earth Day, the largest rocket ever built exploded a few moments into its mission, which was nothing less than to continue to test the technology that would allow us to colonize Mars. I want to repeat that. It was very explicitly said that the goal is to colonize another planet, because we might be done with this one. Now, one of the lead stories in our news the day before Earth Day was not about the technologies that we have and the efforts we have that could make a difference to save this planet. It was about this effort by one individual predominantly to colonize another planet. Still, this is how persistent I am. I am calling you all this morning to hope, because I'm absolutely convinced that while things are changing in our world, and while the forms of religious community that we have known before probably are going to morph and change, I know that we are still going to need to learn to be together, to support one another, to ask our leaders to make the changes that we know can happen. We will continue to be a key partner in that change, because we can offer people those places of sanctuary when we feel as if it's all too much, as if it's something that we cannot do alone, as Patricia's beautiful call to worship said to us today. Now, it is true that all of us need to examine our own habits, not with guilt, but with compassion. And we need to be creative and ask ourselves what we might alter in our own lifestyle, even though many of us might say it really doesn't make a difference what we do as individuals to a large extent. I think that this is where we get caught in these dichotomies of either or. It's actually a both and. And one of the reasons I think that it's a both and is that
our commitments can become our spiritual practices. Our spiritual practices can remind us of our largest commitments, and our largest commitments can give us the stick-to-itness and the persistence to continue to address that with our leaders that we need to address, and perhaps to step into leadership ourselves as well. There are decisions we can make, and just a couple that I think are important. For example, the UU Ministers Association has committed to cutting our travel. We cut it in half this year so that we're not adding as much to the decline of our ozone. And this year's General Assembly of Congregations will be the last annual one. After this year, we're going to start meeting in person only every 2 years. Again, these are small efforts, but they're small efforts that came apart. They're bigger than the efforts of just one person to make these choices. Now they're being made by groups of people, and now they're being made so that they can be part of letting leaders know that we really mean to do this. Timing, remember, is everything. Now, I listened to an Earth Day podcast, which originates in London, from a group of climate activists whose work is fueled by their faiths, and it was a very diverse panel, including one who is part of a new group in England called Humanists for Climate. But Sheila, an environmental consultant who is also Hindu, told a story about when she, as an environmentalist, had an opportunity to go do some field work in an area where she was living at the base of a beautiful big mountain. And she felt that she was compelled to climb this mountain. She felt as if she had to climb up this mountain. So she went out one day and she tried. And the people in the area stopped her on the path and they said, we just spotted a bear on this path, so you might not want to climb this mountain today. So she turned back. And a couple days sometime later, she begins to climb up the mountain again. And this time, as she's walking up the mountain, she almost steps on a snake. And she says, I think that I will skip climbing this mountain today. And she turns back. The third time, she climbs up and gets all the way to the top of the mountain. And at the top of the mountain, as she's looking around, she realizes something, that she doesn't have the sense of accomplishment she thought she would have by climbing up that mountain, because that was rooted in her own personal ethic that she needed to conquer the mountain, that she needed to conquer it for herself out of some kind of belief system, whereas if she really, truly needed to be in relationship with that mountain, she perhaps wanted to do it in a different way, not out of that ethic of colonizing and conquering. And she says later in the podcast, that she began to reflect on a practice that her grandmother taught her from her Hindu faith, which was that every morning before she gets out of bed, she reaches out from her bed and she touches the earth to remind herself that she is grounded in her relationship with the earth. It's a different way of thinking about it. In this time, I believe that one of the things that we will have to hold is a lot of contradiction. And one of them is that we know a lot. We know a lot of things. Like I said, we know the science, we know the technologies, and we also don't know a lot. We don't know how to overcome when we feel that sense of despair and overwhelm. We don't know how to do all these things on our own. And we don't know sometimes how to just exist in a world where so much is unpredictable and often discouraging. You know, there's a movie that the Climate Action Group is calling us into dialogue about after this service, and it's one of the most discouraging and encouraging films I have ever seen. It is truly compelling. In it, a small group of leaders from Malawi, truly the ants from the fable that Michael brought us this morning, travel to this country to speak to their counterpart farmers in this nation. And in just over an hour, it touches on the intensity of our interdependence with one another, the ways that our attitudes to the earth are connected to other beliefs about who has the right to dominate what and who has the right to own what. And for me, it makes a really important point about the difference between the kind of book learning and wisdom. It makes that very clear, that there are wisdoms that we learn in our day-to-day intentional actions that are different from the kind of book learning that sometimes we think is going to be our salvation. If you haven't watched the movie yet, there still are some slots open, so you might ask to be a witness in the room today and then watch it sometime later. Because this film makes clear that there are also two different kinds of faith beliefs as they relate to this climate. The activists from Malawi interact in conversations at first. It's a series of farmers that they talk to here in this nation, but the first is a group of white farmers involved in corporate agriculture, farming thousands of acres. And while the conversations are very cordial and there's clearly an attempt to kind of bridge the divide and listen to one another, the beliefs are clear from these reality-denying grasshoppers. God gave us dominion and will prevail. We don't need to do anything different. Our world can only find faith beyond this kind of belief. And I also want to say that for those of us whose faith has for hundreds of years been rooted in trust in the human experience, belief in the inevitability of human progress, we also may need a different kind of faith. We may also need to move beyond the beliefs that have sustained us thus far, because belief in the inevitability of human progress, if we do not change what we are doing, is also a kind of spiritual bypass as well. As strong as that of the belief in an omnipotent God, or belief that we can only take action when science makes the whole way clear before us. All of these may invite us into that dance between what we know and we don't know on this journey of discovery. And as a community, we may need to work in different ways. It may be just as important for us to work beyond the limits of this campus and out in the community with those who are our neighbors as it is for us to work within this community. It's not an either-or, it's a both-and. That's true as well. Despite the allure of personal spirituality, being able to meditate with an app on your phone or tune into a pay-per-view meditation experience, these are not going to give us the resilience and persistence that we will need as faith communities to remain vital partners in this dialogue, which is a race against time. Let me be clear, as we navigate with one another, we could withdraw, but the reality is that we need to learn to navigate together and to learn what it means to be in relationship with one another. I called this sermon Hope Beyond Belief because I believe that the old forms of believing may not serve us in this critical time in which we live. Our faith is rooted in the beliefs that people have the capacity for good and the belief in the triumph of human progress. We may, again, need to re-examine that. The costs of denying that we need to change how we are doing things is all around us. About 5 years ago, the National Resources Defense Council told us that we had about 20 years to make some really important changes. We have made some in those last 5 years, but not enough, and it is time for us to pay attention. This morning's headline included the news that Governor Gavin Newsom has called in the National Guard to help address the fentanyl crisis in San Francisco. And believing in the goodness of people and the inevitability of the supremacy of reason is hard in this world where someone's child can still knock on the wrong door and end up dead. When someone else's college-age child can be stabbed for looking Asian. When someone who has the beautiful gifts of Namali Brennett, who composed the beautiful piece of special music that was brought to us by Brett and Bryn and Mark today, can be targeted because they are transgender. This is the reality of the world that we live in. And for those of us in Martinez, it includes being told that this year we should not plant gardens because the toxic emissions from the refineries around us have made the soil unsafe. Timing, my friends, is everything. In no way do I want to overclaim what we can do. And in no way do I want to underestimate what we can accomplish if we recommit ourselves to being in active community together, in service of our greatest hopes and to witness to our greatest fears. In that sense, we can move beyond and know ourselves to be among the stars. So let us get to the business of engaging as we can for the survival of our planets, for the survival of our lives and loves and hopes and beliefs, so that we can indeed, in the words of our gathering meditation, know that we did everything that we can so that those that come after us will celebrate our victories and forgive us our mistakes. Timing is everything. So let us get to work.
We invite you to rise and bow to your spirit. Let's join in singing our closing song, Blue Boat Home. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun my sail and moon my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
And we'll extinguish our chalice with these words from Octavia Butler. Kindness eases change, love quiets fear. So let us take the kindness that we may show each other here and the love that is at the center of our faith out into the world, and let us do so in the spirit of peace.